Hey, you. You're a martial artist? Come here. Come here. Come here. Yeah. You're doing it all wrong! I just don't know how we can carry on this relationship if you keep doing the same mistakes over and over and over again. It's overwhelming me. I will not talk about any specific martial arts. I will only talk about the conditioning, about the weight room practices that will get you better in your martial arts. And I see a lot of people doing all the same mistakes when it comes to that conditioning. Because overall, I see this with any martial artist, and I was guilty of the same thing when I was younger, which is we like the game, we like the sparring, we like the forms, we like the challenge. And whenever you get to a gym and then all of a sudden you got to do a hypertrophy or 3 sets of 8 and then rest, 3 sets of 8 and then rest, it's so robotic, it's so undynamic that it gets you bored and you don't want to do it anymore. Or you're gonna start doing what you like to do, which is more of what you do in the ring, and that's a big mistake. So I'm just gonna start off by telling you some of the mistakes that you might have been doing and that are hindering your growth process to become the Willow martial artist. So first mistake that I see often perpetrated is a lot of repetitions. Very lightweight, a lot of repetitions. Because you think like you spar. If you have to throw 1,238 punches in a single fight, you're gonna think, okay, I'm gonna have to do the same thing with weights. So if I do a bicep curl, I'm not gonna do 10 repetitions, I'm gonna do 20, 30, 50. That is a big mistake. Because first and foremost, you should develop your strength. So what you can't do in the ring or what you can't do in the technique classes of your martial arts, you will have to do in the gym. So you have to develop that overall strength with very little repetitions and bigger weights, because that way you'll be strong enough to have a more powerful punch, a more powerful kick, a more powerful throw. And if you think in terms of economy of movement, it does make a lot of sense, because once you're stronger, it's like you're augmenting your threshold. If you do 30 repetitions of a weight, let's say you do a bench press and you do 30 repetitions with 100 pounds. If your 1 RM, your 1 rep max, your maximum weight that you can put on the barbell and do 1 repetition of bench press is 180 pounds, you're gonna struggle to be able to do the 30 repetitions with 100 pounds, right? But if you get to a point where your 1 rep max is like 300, then those 30 repetitions with 100 pounds will be piece of cake. So that's one of the main things that even endurance people like runners or cyclists, they know this. That's why they incorporate the strength work into their regimen, because they want to be stronger, because that way they can spend much less energy doing the smaller stuff, because you're not going to throw a punch with everything you got, because you got to keep fighting. You're going to always try to economize your energy expenditure during the fight. So this makes a whole lot of sense. And once I understood this, it really upped my game. Next one, exercise selection. A lot of people from the martial arts try to mimic what they do in their respective martial arts in the gym. So you see a lot of people grabbing on dumbbells and going for the punches. Which is good, you know, but you're already doing a lot of that in the martial arts practice. So what I recommend you do is you go for the foundational exercises for whatever gives you overall strength. And think overall, think general. So even though you're not a power lifter, you can take a lot of hints from powerlifting, because they want to be as strong as possible. So they don't want to waste too much time. So what they do is they grab compound movements, stuff like squats, any kind of pulling, whether it be vertical pulling like heavy ass pull-ups or chin-ups, or horizontal pulling like barbell rows or one arm dumbbell rows, you know, for heavy weights. Then you got pressing movements, either vertical like a shoulder press or military press, or to the front, you know, like a bench press, or the hinge motions like deadlift. So if you try to do those for less reps, like I said before, and if you try to think of an overall pattern of developing strength and using a lot of muscles at once in these compound movements, you're gonna really feel the difference when it comes to specializing territory in your programming. That will be a much more intelligent approach to the weight room, other than grabbing the cables and doing like this all the time, or the punches, and going with the bozo ball and then kicking with the bozo ball, because that's so unrealistic. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. Besides, all those rotational movements, all those hundreds of repetitions doing the actual combinations is something that is supposed to be done in your regular martial arts training sessions. So I've talked about overall strength, but now we're gonna focus on body parts. And I think one of the major mistakes that I see done as well is not working on the body parts, and sometimes they're very neglected because, you know, they're not as easy to work, or people will think only about the major muscles like the pecs or the lats or the biceps, you know, the ones that show the most. But then a lot of people from a lot of sports, not just martial arts, but a lot of people from a lot of sports neglect some of the most important and small details that come along with their modality. So for example, the neck. The neck muscle is one of the most neglected muscles in all of martial arts, and it's one of the major components for absorbing the blows. Not only the neck, but the traps. So I'm gonna do a video with some of my favorite techniques or some of my favorite drills to work on the neck, but don't neglect the neck. As a stuntman myself, whenever I fall, it's the neck that takes the hit. So the thicker or the more robust and the more muscular my neck gets, the better. Another muscle that I see very, very neglected is the glutes. The glutes, if the neck is the absorption of the blows, the glutes are going to be the absorption of anything from sprinting, from jumping, from going back and forth, you know, everything that you want to use, or for a lot of kicking power, kicking drive, either concentric or eccentric, anything that you might want to do to focus on the glutes will be a huge plus. So anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week, either neck or glutes or hamstrings, you know, these are muscles that people don't think about them that much because sometimes they're not, you know, they're not the main go-tos whenever you go to the gym, but these are so important for your overall development, and these are the ones that keep you healthy and avoid the injuries. So don't neglect either these 3 or others that you know might be lacking in your training program. Next mistake, too much static stretching. Most of my stretching, of course, I've done a lot of static stretching, you know, and a lot of people do static stretching before they even start to kick and jump and do some sparring or some techniques or forms or whatever. And I think that's a huge mistake. I believe in static stretching only like once or twice a week when you're relaxed or watching Netflix at home, something to get you a little bit more of a deload state. And it does increase a little bit of your flexibility, but I think the biggest gains in flexibility will come from either dynamic stretching. For example, when you're warming up, when you're doing the leg swings, when you're doing the split squats, the Cossack squats, these are great drills for you to work on that you can incorporate into your training regimen. And you can even do what we could call static, but with tension. So instead of working on flexibility, we do mobility, which is like range of motion through tension. So you can actually keep a position, you can keep a posture if you're going against some sort of resistance. If you see a lot of banded flexibility drills, you will know what I'm talking about. So those are very crucial because that way you're not just opening your legs, but you're opening your legs and you're working, you're still contracting, you're still tightening the muscles in that very difficult range of motion. So that's what really matters to a martial artist. If you think of a kick, for instance, okay, this guy doesn't open his legs too wide, but if you think of a kick and you're opening your legs as wide as possible, let's say Bruce Lee is kicking Bruce Willow. So he wants to open as wide as possible. He kicks and then he wants to bring the leg back. Or Bruce Willow is starting to come this way. So this guy wants to recoil. So what is recoiling, or what is actually kicking, is opening up and contracting or tightening up at the point of maximum overture or maximum opening. So what is that? That's mobility. That's not flexibility. Flexibility is just opening up. But opening up through tension, that is mobility. So work on your mobility, and that's much better. Another way to work on stretching and mobility is with weights. So not only bands, but you can, for example, do Jefferson curls, do Jefferson squats, exercises and drills that will get you ample motions, ample movements as well through tension with the barbells and the dumbbells as well. So all of that, if incorporated into your fitness routine, it'll make a huge difference when you go and fight, not Bruce Willow, because Bruce Willow would kick your ass. Woo! The next mistake is about not knowing how to program or design your week based on all of this that I talked about. The first thing you gotta know is you're a fighter, or you wanna be a fighter, okay? So if you wanna be the next Georges St. Pierre,
Georges St. Pierre is the undisputed UFC welterweight champion!
you're not gonna spend 80% of the time in the gym and 20% in the martial arts practice. You're gonna do the other way around. So the gym will only give you your extra juice for your buck. So if you want to be incisive when you go to the gym, I would say a full body workout 2 to 3 times a week would be more than enough to begin with, because the other days will be the training sessions, or you might do bi-daily, and maybe the AM session be the martial arts and the PM session be weightlifting, whatever. The thing is, when you get to the gym, you can design it like so. You can start with the explosive movements first, and I'm talking about the plyometrics, the jumps, for a very low amount of reps, but the things that require the most explosion, or the med ball throws, or even weightlifting like power cleans, squat cleans, snatches, anything that you might have in your skill set that you might want to do. After that, you step onto the compound movement block with strength portion, like anywhere from 2 to 5 repetitions to build up that strength with squats, with chin-ups, with bench press, whatever, with a big amount of rest, or a long amount of rest. And only then will you go to the specific body parts or the hypertrophy with stuff like anywhere from 6 to 12 repetitions, for example, in any given isolated muscle, like the ones I discussed earlier, or the ones that you might want to work on, like shoulders, whatever. Only then would it be advisable, if you still got time and if you haven't done a lot of cardio during the week, if you want to compensate a little bit, you can do some sort of circuit training where you can incorporate your core exercises, your rotations, other stuff that you might want to do that resemble a little bit more of the intensity that you get in the ring. But other than that, follow this list that I've given you to design your perfect training session, and you'll be fine. Is there enough time for one last mistake? Yes, there is. You're running too much. I mean, it's good to be old school. It's good to watch Rocky. It's good to go run like Mike Tyson, like every day at 4 a.m. to go run for an hour and a half. It's good. It's good. But you can rotate your cardio sessions. Sometimes you're doing so much cardio that you're not getting enough energy left in your tank to go to the gym, build on other stuff that you might want to build on. Remember, the gym is a lab. It's a lab where you get the things that you did not have before. I remember when I started playing rugby when I was 18 years old. I came from wushu, so I was a very light and ripped kid that would do a lot of backflips, a lot of splits, a lot of jumping kicks and stuff like that. I was like a flower, like a ballet dancer. So I was very agile, but when I had to tackle guys who were my age but 30 or 40 pounds heavier, that's when I discovered the gym and the weight training. And that was like, oh, so there's a lab for me to get as big and strong as these kids? Okay, so I'm gonna do it. So I spent 1 year working in the gym, and then when I came back, I was at least as strong as them. I still didn't have the competitive edge because I didn't have enough technique to be a good rugby player, because most of them were playing from their, I don't know, 5-6 years of age, and I wasn't, so that ended up quickly. But you get the point. So that's it, guys. I mean, if you have any questions about these topics, let me know in the comment section. But basically, it's all about not wasting time, not wasting energy, because you've already spent a lot of that energy in the ring or whatever. You gotta be like Ivan Drago, you know? You gotta be like someone who goes to the gym to pick up the necessary skills and develop the necessary muscles to be a beast in the gym. So if you keep that 70-30 or 80-20 rule, but if you're really incisive when you go to the gym, I believe it will be overall better or best for all of you guys. Like the video, share, subscribe, and tell me what you would like to see next in our Willow adventures. See ya.